This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hire Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Lotzar, happy to be your host today. Joined, as always, by my trusted partner, Vern Schellinger. We are here to help you, guide you, coach you through your job search journey. So we'd like to open up with anyone who has a question on any aspect of job search, from resumes to interviews, whatever. Eric.
Yeah, since I have an interview, what are the best questions that I should be asking in an interview?
Well, how long do you have? Goodness. All right. So actually, before I get into that, and Vern, would love to hear, we'll go back and forth. I want to actually gear you, and I know you won't have really much time to watch it between now and 11 or after this meeting, but also on my website is a free free videos, not Hire Moment Mastermind, but as you know, have job search videos. So there's one on interview. So again, if you go to purposefulhire.com, go to the job seeker tab, go to Shira Speaks to Job Seekers. And then down here, Eric, there's a meeting, there's a presentation I did called Interviews That Land the Offer. This is actually the slide deck. So at the very least, Eric, you could download this slide deck and you'll see I have certain slides that specifically talk about asking questions and all of that. So I want to make sure that you see that. But just at a very high level, there's a lot of ways to go with that, with your question. So first of all, you want to make sure that the questions that you ask are not just generic. I mean, you can ask generic questions around typical day and, what are you looking for in the ideal candidate, those kinds of things. That's fine. That's normal. No one would object to that. But really, your best questions are going to be ones that are highly customized to the role, highly customized to the organization. And that means you have to do your research, right? Research that company as best you can. Research the industry, see what's going on in the sector. Really, 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 really read the job announcement. I mean, backwards, forwards, upside down, every word. Really analyze that job announcement. What are they expecting from you? What goals are you supposed to accomplish? How did they frame up the job? For example, in the responsibility section, let's say there's 20 bullets. All 20 bullets are not equal. Typically, the most important responsibilities are the first 3 or 4 bullets, right? That's really kind of the thrust. By the time they get down to the bottom, we get closer to other duties as assigned, right? So it becomes less and less important. Not important, but less important. And so you could be asking questions about different bullets on the job. So you could say, well, I noticed, on the job announcement, you're asking for someone to use X skill. Can you tell me the context of that? Can you tell me what success would look like if I did that well? Can you share with me any new initiatives that you are bringing that I would be responsible for in the short term, in the long term? In a year from now, what would success look like for this role? Those kinds of things, right? And get really detailed, actually pull out phrases from the job announcement, from the summary section, from the responsibility section, quote them. Say, well, you mentioned this or you mentioned that. Can you share more detail around that? Who are some of the stakeholders that I would be engaging with? What are some of the challenges that I might anticipate? What are some of the skill sets that I really need to bring to the table? What about a learning curve? How much, how strong do I need to be in these skills versus those skills? And what if I don't have this as much as that? Is that okay? Like, I'm telling you, this is why I said, how long do you have? I mean, we could really go on and on and on about questions, but the idea is that you deep dive into the job announcement, deep dive into the company, try to customize your questions so that they can see that you're thoughtful about the role, that you're trying to make an impact and you're trying to achieve good outcomes for them. Now, there are certain questions that are going to be important to you personally, right? Could be work-life balance. It could be, what kind of resources will I have? What kind of training will there be on the job? I mean, things that are important to you so that if you're going to be a good fit. You can ask about the corporate culture. You can ask about the supervisor's management style. You can ask about your coworkers. These are things that might be important to you. And I'm not going to get into salary right now, but I'm trying to give a broad swath. So Vern, did you want to?
And probably if this is the first interview, you may or may not want to ask about salary in the first interview. And so I'm going to go to the other side.
Well, this is the first meeting with the hiring manager. I had a call with the recruiter yesterday.
You did.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So as you ask all of them, you won't ask all of the questions. Maybe you will, maybe you'll have time. I don't know. But as you ask those questions, the other part of being really successful in an interview is when you hear their answers to those questions, think about how does your experience, how does your skills, how do you match up with what you're hearing from them? So that when you have an opportunity to say, well, I'm really glad you know, what does success look like? And they describe what success looks like. Somewhere in the interview, you can say, well, I'm really, or even if it's the close of the interview, you can say, based on what you said about, you know, what's really critical here in terms of being successful, I'm confident that this looks like a great match for me because, and then you reiterate some of your skills or experiences that hopefully you've incorporated into the interview somewhere.
Yeah, always, that's great, Vern. Yeah, always align your skills with what they're looking for, which of course then that gets into accomplishment stories, right?
Yeah.
The better you know what they want, or you can the better you can ask questions about what they want, the better you can align what you've done with what they need.
Yeah, and as Shira said, as you scour that job description, think about what they're looking for and what kind of accomplishment story, what kind of experience do you have that matches up well with that, and be prepared at any point in the interview to make sure that, you know, they hear that from you. Yeah.
Exactly. Is that helpful, Eric?
Yeah, it's going pretty fast.
To me, this is one of the hardest parts of the interview because everyone has been interviewed before, and now you've got to. This is the hardest part, to be thinking on your feet in the moment, because I'm sure a number of us have walked out of an interview saying, "Oh, I wish I would have said that," right? And but that comes also with the more interviews you do, the better you get at it.
Sonia, did you have something to share?
I do. I have but it's my question.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
You were talking about that question that they asked, what does the typical day for you look like? And when you haven't worked regular full-time in a little while, that can kind of stump you. And I got asked that this week, and I wasn't expecting that question because, like you say, it's pretty generic. And I didn't have time to really think about
So
it.
actually, I'm a little confused. So you're saying
Yeah.
the employer asked you what a typical day would look like for you?
Yeah.
Normally it's the other way around.
I know. I know. But they say, if I get the job, what does the typical day look like? And I'm like, I can't give details because,
Yeah.
you know,
Odd
I don't know
question.
the company. Pardon?
That's an odd question to
That's
ask.
I
Yeah.
know. Like I said, I was taken aback, but I kind of went off from the perspective, you know, I'm an early riser. I start my day early. I end my day late. If the company ends at 5, I probably won't leave until 6 because, you know, I have to wait for HOV to open up. So I just wait it out. But I kind of went through that perspective. You know, whenever I start my day, I have an agenda. I never go in like, okay, what am I going to do today? I already know. And sometimes you have to defer off of it because, you know, life happens, business happens, and so on and so forth. And you know, I talked about that. I don't really, I don't take a lunch hour. I do encourage my team to, but I don't normally take a lunch
So
hour.
I'm thinking that they might be looking for more than your sort of start time and end time. I'm thinking they're probably asking about how do you organize your day, or maybe how do you prioritize HR? You know,
But see, that's how come I say it took me aback.
yeah.
It's, you know, prioritizing HR. I couldn't,
you know what? So this like maybe leads to a different concept. Whenever you're asked a question that stumps you,
Yes.
okay, that's maybe how we can address it that way. So one of the things you can do is ask a follow-on question. Say, wow, that's a really interesting question. Can you tell me more about what you're looking for from that question, right? Help me understand kind of the premise of it and what you're hoping to hear from me. That opens it up and they'll, oh, well, actually what I mean is da 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 da. You ask a clarifying question back. Then you're like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. And then if you're still stumped, you can say, well, do you want me to answer it this way? Do you want me to answer it that way? And that buys you time to think about stories. And you could even say, I've got a story that's in this direction, a story that's in that direction. What would you like? Right. So you keep on asking until you get really clear. And then hopefully by that time, you'll have some thoughts around it.
Well,
sometimes I even repeat the question back or in different words. I said, so what you're asking me is, because sometimes if I'm trying to write something down and my brain goes in this direction, I actually don't, I'll confess, I don't sometimes hear every question. So I want to make sure I've heard it correctly. So I'll repeat it back to them to make sure that I've heard what they're saying. And sometimes that invites them to ask the question in a different way that is clearer.
Now again, all of these things, whenever you can buy yourself a little time for you to think, as I just said earlier, the one of the skills in the interview is being able to think quickly on your feet, and that's difficult for most of us. So whatever you can do to slow the process down a little bit is helpful for you in the interview to collect your thoughts, to give the best possible answer you can give.
Okay. I was taken aback because that's not normally a question I get. And I'm like, okay, what? I feel like what you said, what do you want me to say?
Yeah. What kind of response are you hoping for here? Tell me, can you share with me a little bit more about the premise of your question?
Yeah.
Can you expand on it a little bit?
I'm gonna remember that. Okay. All right. Good information.
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, because I'm so scared to ask like a clarifying question. I'm just so nervous in the interview, but I see doing that would help me give them the answer that they're looking for.
Yeah, I think mentally, it's also about leveling the playing field. I get why candidates feel this way, but you are not in a subordinate position. Hello? You're not in a subordinate position.
Well,
Equal.
you definitely feel like it. Yes.
That's why I'm saying
it
that.
Definitely,
it feels that way, but that's not the reality.
Okay?
Okay?
And see, the other thing, I have to work on is to make sure, because I am a high level HR person, I have to make sure I don't give the impression that I know everything and you know nothing, that type of thing.
Of course.
And so I have to pull back and kind of wait and see, and I don't want to say too much where it seems like why is she not working? That kind of thing. I don't know. It's really, this has been a very, very hard process for me, even at my level and what I do. It's been very hard. And because I can't say everything. And then I got to know when to pull back, when to stop talking, that kind of thing. And I don't know, I just want to work, let's just get past this and let me work.
I understand.
But
well,
anyway,
there is a lot of this has to do with value creation. How much value are you providing to the organization, and how much you can showcase that, not just from your past experience, but asking really thoughtful questions around what their goals are and how you can make a contribution, and them seeing, like, envisioning you in the role. Too many employers focus so much on the past, they don't focus on the future. Talking about the role, talking about initiatives, talking about, hey, here's what we would like to see from you, or you asking them questions, what would you like to see from me? And then brainstorming together and saying, hey, have you guys ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? Might we try this kind of initiative? And so as you are gently, humbly, right, proffering suggestions, they can kind of envision, it's like, oh, wow, that's a really cool idea, Sonia. And then maybe all of a sudden opens up into conversation. So wherever you can try to shift from the past, your past experience, into where you might be going in the future. Just
Okay.
a thought for you. Vern?
All right, that's good advice.
Sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I mean, I understand that, when most of us go into the interviews, we're nervous, but to Shira's point, you're not a subordinate, and
That's right.
it's a mindset. You've got to have confidence in your own abilities, and you need to go in there and say, I'm exploring this opportunity with this particular company. And so, that's all I'm doing at this point. And you owe it to yourself to do everything you can to make sure the job's the right fit for you. They're obviously trying to see if you're the right fit for the
That's right.
job. But you need to make sure it's the right fit for you. So the more questions you can ask, the more conversational the interview can be. The better off. The other question you can easily ask sometimes. They'll say, for a behavioral interviewing or a situational, tell me about a time when, answer the question. And as soon as you're done answering, ask them, did that answer your question?
Right.
And they're either going to say yes, they're going to say, yeah, that was a great answer. And if so, that should give you a little bit of confidence that you're doing pretty well, at least with that question in the interview. Or they're going to say, no, could you tell me a little bit more about X, Y, Z? And that helps make it more of a conversation.
Having a conversation, to Vern's point, is huge. I will tell you, as a recruiter, and Vern, I know you've recruited as well. Sonia, you've recruited too, right? So put that hat back on. When I'm in an interview, it is so impressive to me when a candidate starts to ask me thoughtful questions. Thoughtful questions. Not just, although there's nothing wrong with the questions, the basics of what's the work-life balance, that's fine. It's all right. But when they really start to say, I noticed X in the job announcement. I noticed Y on the organization's website. Can you tell me more about, and how does this dot connect to that? I love that. I'm like, wow, you're thoughtful, man. You're connecting the dots. You're showing me you're interested. You're showing me you care. I'm starting to envision how you'd be on the role. I am so impressed when candidates take the time to ask those kinds of thoughtful questions. So, anything you can do to go in that direction will help them envision you in the role. That unto itself can be the make or breaker, because I will tell you, most candidates don't do that. Most candidates sit with, if you will, with their hands in their lap, okay, looking all professional, waiting for the next question. It's what I call, I think I've said this here before recently, is the difference between what I call racquetball and tennis. Okay, so racquetball is like, you just hit the ball against the wall. That's how most candidates think of this. On the wall, hit me with another question, right? Tennis, back and forth, QA, 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 QA. And all of a sudden you're getting, that levels the playing field. No longer are you this, you're this. You're asking them, you're being thoughtful, you're owning the role. And I will tell you that sometimes when an employer is vetting a candidate who they think is like a hot commodity, okay, someone who they really want, they start to court that person. They start to sell that person. And then if anything, the tables are really turned, then the candidates actually has the upper hand because they realize that they are somebody in demand. Eric?
Getting to having the recruiter see that you're someone they think desire, that seeing the hiring manager is different, convincing the hiring manager is different. How should you go about with the hiring manager?
Actually, Eric, everything we just were saying actually applies more to the hiring manager than it does to the recruiter. And the reason is that the recruiter usually doesn't have nearly as much information about the job as the hiring manager does, because they're working on multiple jobs, right? So they have some understanding. So the questions that you ask the recruiter, I mean, you can ask them whatever you want, but they oftentimes are not able to give you that much depth of feedback around the role. Okay. Yeah, they can answer questions about culture and maybe the supervisor's management style and, maybe a little bit about the job, but the really thoughtful questions should go to the hiring manager, because that's the person who understands what they need from this role.
Another thing about, asking questions, and Shira already referenced this, research the website. I mean, the website's going to have, what this organization is all about. It's going to talk about their values. You can create a question. You can be prepared to ask a question about the values. I noticed on your website, the values of this organization are X, Y, Z. Can you tell me a little bit more about how those actually translate into day-to-day, relationships and the working environment here at this company?
Exactly.
Can I put one more out there? Can you address the question, why should we hire you?
Sonia, I'm going to put that one back to you. How do you think you can handle that question?
Oh, goodness.
Given everything we've just talked about, how do you think you can
I
handle
don't know. I'm kind of like a beaten puppy right now. And
Well, should they hire you, Sonia?
absolutely.
So what?
I have a very strong track record, and if I couldn't get the job done, I wouldn't get the consulting assignments. And everybody I ever consulted with has wanted to hire me. Everybody, even when they don't have a position for me, and they want me to stay. And there have been some.
Why? What is it about your work style?
Because number one, I'm very knowledgeable. I bring things to the table that they don't know about or whatever. I could do the work top to bottom.
So Sonia, I think what would be really helpful is not just the fact that you're very knowledgeable, because guess what? All of your friendly competitors are very knowledgeable. Those are table stakes. Sonia, anybody at your level, I know how high level you are. They're all skilled.
Yeah.
What makes you different? What makes you unique?
Sure. Can I jump in here for a minute? We talked earlier about what does success look like on this job. So again, this is an example of when you ask that question and they say, this is what success looks like. You've got to listen very carefully. And so when they ask the question, why should we hire you? Then you say, well, based on the three key objectives that you said were, that were critical to success in this job, let me tell you how I've handled each one of those in my career up to this point. And you give them a very specific answer, not that you're just knowledgeable, but now you're giving them specific information where you're actually telling them, this is why you should hire me, because I can do exactly what you said, was most critical to success in this job.
That's right. Customize your answer to them, Sonia. You want to be as thoughtful as possible. You don't want to sound like every other HR executive, because you're not. You're unique, right? Yeah. So I think that you need to take an inventory of your hard skills and your soft skills. Two things. Which hard skills are your superpowers? Because in HR, it's not, I know you know something about everything, right? But there are some areas where you're stronger, right? You have more expertise than others. So the number one, you want to emphasize that. And then your soft skills are very important, very important. How do you show up as a leader? What are your, how do people experience you, right? Are you more the type to, be that sort of analytical, critical thinker type? Are you more the person who's going to, create, harmonious relationships? Are you the person who's like, you're really all about, creating infrastructure? I mean, like there's a million ways to go, but you've got to know yourself and know what you're bringing to the table. Because if you just give generic answers, Sonia, that makes you a generic candidate.
Yeah,
you're not a generic candidate.
That was another one I didn't expect. I was like, really? Okay.
But that's actually not an uncommon question. The why should we hire you?
I don't get that a lot.
It's the equivalent of like, why you for us right now? Like it's the same kind of thing. It's what makes you unique. I mean, it's the same kind of question. Why do you want this role? Why should, what makes you special? Anything like that. They're trying to get you to share your philosophy. So I'm doing a search right now for a senior director of finance and operations. And it's a job where, good 60% of it is financial strategy. And so I've had a few candidates who've really emphasized their data analytics superpowers. They are just they just love modeling and they love analytics. And they're not just bean counters, like they're not just accountants, they're financial strategists. And that's what I'm listening for. And that's really funny because I told them at the end of the interview, those who I, was moving on or want to move on, I said, hey, by the way, I said, it's on the second level interview, when you meet with the team, we're going to give you all the financials of the company and we're going to have you analyze it and come back with questions. And all like 4 of the candidates that I vetted that I really liked, every single one of them said exactly the same thing in response to what I said. Literally, they all said, that sounds like fun. Literally, they said that, every single one of them. That sounds like fun. That said something to me, okay? Because I was saying to them, I'm going to give you an assignment, like peruse and analyze the numbers. And they all said it sounds like fun because that's how they think. And they smiled and they got all excited, like, yeah, that's great, okay? So my point is that if you know your unique qualities, you know what makes you stand out. And HR professionals, my goodness, Sonia, how did you and I meet, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that community, had Vern, same, all 3 of us, same community. I know, HR professionals like the back of your hand, your colleagues. You also know what makes you stand out. Not what makes you better because everybody's great. I just mean that what makes you unique amongst your peers. You do things a certain way, different than other people. And if that's what they're looking for, they need to know it. You owe it to them. You owe it to them to tell them what makes you unique, and how you're gonna add value.
This is the part of me, I've said this before, although no one wants to believe me. I'm a natural introvert. No one wants to believe that, but I am. And I've been through Myers-Briggs and it comes up. She's an introvert, ISTJ.
Right.
And when you're an introvert.
ISTJ, Sonia, that was very revealing. Not the I part, the STJ part.
Yeah.
You don't know how revealing that was. I've known you for years. That just told me more about you in those 3 letters.
Okay. And that's it's hard for an introvert to talk about themselves. I have to really, really, really work at it.
You know what, Sonia? Can I interrupt you?
Sure.
You just mentioned ISTJ. Go to the Myers-Briggs personality profile.
Mm-hmm.
Pull out the qualities that you see in that profile that relate to you. I would actually not open with that, but when somebody asks you about yourself, personality qualities, say it. I'm an ISTJ, and here are some of the key characteristics according to Myers-Briggs that typify an ISTJ that I personally relate to. Phrase, keywords. Then you're talking about somebody else's description of you.
Yeah.
I really relate when they said da 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 da, and then you give an example.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. That will help me out
because I'll tell you, Sonia, what you're just being that you're an ISTJ, you've got a lot of project management skills in you. You're a structure person. You're an order person. You're a detail person. That in fact, ESTJs are the classic project managers, i.e., similar. But the STJ piece, super project oriented.
Yeah.
I really, really want you to emphasize that just illuminated it for me. Like I learned something about you just by you saying that. So I think that if they are looking for somebody to structure the department, to organize, to coordinate, to project manage, to keep those trains running on time, you're that girl. If you were an ENFJ like me, it'd be a very different conversation, because people like me are more that, the influencer, the hug everybody, the harmony people. It's different. This is a different thing, right? You do and I do different things. If that's what they're looking for, the person's going to keep the order, the structure, the infrastructure, all of that. That's you. But they've got
I am definitely going to do that, because I do need some help in talking about myself. My goal is to get the job done. I don't do the thing like that's beneath me. Yeah, I've been a VP, I've been a board of directors, you know that, Cher. I've been president,
Right.
of the association, but it's very hard for me because I do so well in the background. That's the reason when I go into a consultant assignment and I walk in and the place is total chaos, I bring complete order.
Bring the order. You create clarity out of chaos.
Yeah.
I would write that down.
Clarity out of what?
You can either say I create clarity out of chaos, or I bring order, or I create order out of chaos. Same. Clarity out of chaos is a quippier way to say it.
Yeah.
But that's really it. You walk into chaos situations, and you're the maestro, and you will orchestrate, right? All the moving parts, so everybody's in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
You know which band player needs to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It runs like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
You'll create a.
So everybody online, if you know anybody looking for HR leader to do that, contact me. Okay, I'm done. Good information. Thank you so much.
Tanya, one more point. Think of the word efficiency. Okay. In other words, I get things running efficiently. Okay, which saves time, which could save money. There's lots of outcomes to really efficient operations, better communications.
You can even say, call me queen of efficiency, that really, like, give yourself a little moniker or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good information.
Yeah.
The quicker, cleaner.
I'll do better next time. I'll be ready.
I think you're onto something.
Although I do hope this job interview I went on this week, it was so well. It was for 1 hour. It went over an hour. It went 2 hours, and I'm still shocked. But
Sonia, could you shoot me a note offline? I want to chat with you offline about this.
Will do.
Yeah.
Will do.
Okay. All right, Tamara.
Yeah, hi. Thanks. And this is great. It's great that you do this. I wish I had known this, forever ago, but I know this now. So I'm do some contracting work, a day to 2 days a week with a consulting firm that I've been working with since June, and I love them. And they're, my dream, well, not dream, but one thing I would love to do is grow it. And I've been in touch. So I'm working in a different big division than the division I worked in last year, where I finally made a connection with the PR person in the international development division, which is what my background's in. And
I'm sorry, is your background in PR or is your background international?
My background's in PR, but I've been wanting to have full-time work in international development or international affairs. And, I've been last project was with USAID. This project is more of a global public health project. And I was in touch with the external PR person of the International Development Division last year, who referred me for the second project. And so, and then when we spoke, she's also said, well, the next step also would be to put you in touch with my bosses. And I mentioned already that I was talking to you, Tamara. And so then it took me a while because of my lack of self-confidence, which is crazy sometimes, but to write her back. And I wrote her after I started the second project and thanked her and said, can we touch, do you want to touch base about what we talked about in December? And it's been a couple of weeks and I haven't heard. And, I hear a lot about, well, when you want to keep in touch with somebody, you should send them, a link or pieces of advice but I don't, I know me, if people send me that, I don't know kind of what to do next and what would be valuable to her as a way to continue the relationship and try to get her to respond in some way. I don't even need to talk to her. It'd just be nice to evolve the relationship.
When was the last time you talked to her?
Early December.
And she said to you, there's more work.
At that point, she said, we're kind of redoing the structure of our PR division because here's what's going on in the company. And so we're trying to, we do anticipate in the first quarter, we may need to staff up, but we're not quite sure what that looks like. And I sent her something I had done in a previous job when I was looking at staffing. And I had sent her kind of a mock-up, you know, as a result of the conversation to say, I don't know if this will help, but this is how I did it.
Right.
And that's when the conversation, she also said it might be useful for you to speak to blah. I don't even think she said their names.
Okay, so here's the thing. This is clearly not an urgent priority for her right now. So let's walk around in her shoes. So
Right.
she knows you're out there. You've reached out. When she's ready, she'll reach back out to you. Okay. And
so do I need to but sometimes people forget, right?
It's true. I know you did email her, right? A couple weeks ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You could wait another couple of weeks and reach out again. Now it is possible your email went into spam. That really does happen a lot these days with spam filters. You could give her a call. Just a thought, because I mean, I really have had that happen.
Well, I'm in the RTI system, the consulting firm system. So I wrote her from my work account. I could chat her on Teams.
Oh, okay.
I could send her a chat in a couple weeks on Teams because I'm in the system now.
Oh, fine. That's different. That's fine. Yeah. You could do it, but I mean, obviously you don't want to be pushy, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would, you could do another outreach and maybe wait another month or so, but again, it's not high on her list. Just word that she reached back out. I mean, it'd be nice for her to just touch base and say, hey, no news yet. But remember how she phrased it? We might have some needs in first quarter. Things change.
Okay.
She may not have those needs right now. So make it one egg in your basket, do a little touch base. Again, wait another few weeks, you can do another touch base, and then I would just let it go. She knows you're there. If she needs you, she'll come find you.
Okay.
All
right.
All you need to say is, hi, how are you? Just checking in, based on our last conversation, look forward to, look forward to hearing from you. And as Shira said, if she's busy, you may not hear from her. That's normal sometimes, but so.
All right, thank you. And then another question is I always wonder when you're asked to interview and you're given some times, say you're saying we're doing our first or second round of interviews next week, and we've got Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I do a lot of reading, and I think I read often that it's first or last, that you're better off first or last versus the middle. I was wondering if you guys had an opinion on that.
Yeah, this is not an uncommon question. Yes, it can be helpful to be first or last. On the other hand, I will tell you, as somebody who recruits all the time, a good candidate is a good candidate no matter when I meet them.
Okay.
Period. Seriously, doesn't matter when I meet them.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I guess in the last interview round that I had the end of December for something, I almost felt like being first which is what I was problematic because, and I'm glad I didn't work at this company because they were nuts, but they didn't know what the role was. And so I was the first candidate and helped them start to define it.
They're not for nothing. There is something to that, because by the time you get closer to the end of the interview process, they know what they want. They've asked their good questions. They've had a bunch of candidates, then they're kind of comparing. It's a little bit like the Olympics, right? The athletes, the ones who go first, often don't get as high of a score because it's almost a little bit in comparison sometimes, right? So, yeah. So going toward the end can be helpful for that reason. I wouldn't artificially choose that, but if you have a choice, I mean, going toward the end can be helpful. I mean, even if you want to go last. But on the other hand, but see, you don't know this necessarily, but if they have multiple interviews in a row, like that day, and then you're like the last of the last, they can be kind of tired.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So going the last day, maybe, might be helpful, like maybe the morning, there's subtleties.
That's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So.
So I've heard a few people talk about confidence, and you even said to me, hey, still you're not subordinate. So is there a book or something online that I could use to increase my confidence, even though I am working? But yeah,
it's a great question. I'm actually, it's funny. I don't keep up with books, right? That's just not my world. Eric, isn't there there's that woman that you've mentioned who has that, what is it, that every Thursday call? What's the person's name?
Patricia Rumboletti.
Would you mind putting her information in the chat for folks? I know she has a TED Talk. Doesn't she have a book?
Yes, Bulletproof Your Career by Pat Rumboletti.
Yeah, I mean, she's a pro. Sounds to me like she's a confidence builder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you put in the chat, then Sil can grab it. So bulletproof your career.
And the other question I had was, now I didn't get the job, but they wanted me to come on Zoom. And I was just like, oh, well, I really don't want to come on Zoom. You know, can I just do it over the phone? And I heard you say in your talk that all 4 people, when you saw them, they smiled. So how important is it to be on video when the interviewer asks?
As opposed to just phone?
Yes.
Anytime you can do a face-to-face, do it. You want to bond with these folks, and there's nothing like nonverbal cues to do that. Phone, they can only hear your voice, but on Zoom, they can at least see your head and shoulders body language, which can be incredibly helpful to bond with them. Again, your smile, how you position yourself, leaning forward, you know, your nods and your understanding of what they're saying. I mean, all of it is important. Look, face-to-face, like actual face-to-face is the best type of interview. Secondarily would be Zoom, and third would be phone.
So I'll say another thing in terms of confidence. You know, one of the things you can do is for those people that are closest to you and the people that know you best, just ask them, say, you know, I'd like to, you know, I'd like to build my confidence. I mean, if there's, again, you got to have somebody who knows you well. You just don't ask, you know, anybody in your network that kind of question. But, you know, what, and say, tell me what you see. What are my real skills? What are my real strengths? And if you hear the same things from 5 or 6 or 7 people, that ought to give you some level of confidence that you're really good at that particular skill or that particular, you know, whatever it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm in a little bit of a different position. I am looking to change careers. I actually retired in December 2020. I wanted to come back and do something, but I wanted to do something not as extensive as I was doing before. I was managing infrastructure across the entire country for a federal agency. I was looking to do something more at a team level where I was a team coach, team things like that. I did manage, you know, several teams, but what I'm doing, I'm finding I'm having a hard time. I don't know whether it's the age, whether it's the resume. I went to one resume writing group and they gave me one. And I guess I'm torn between transitioning my skills over and overselling that. You know, I understand transitioning existing skills, but if I haven't actually worked in that framework before, I don't want to lie about it and say I did. So I guess that's what I'm running into. I'm running into a little bit of, you're always hearing about this, oh, you can change your career anytime, you can do this, you can do that. I went out and got the certifications after I retired. I got both, but
people who say that are not recruiters.
Yeah, the big thing is that, yes, I've got experience managing teams, but I don't know how much you know about the project management. It's shifting from what they call waterfall to agile.
Agile. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agile is something different.
Right.
And while I managed teams and I did projects, things like that, I wasn't in the software development area. I was in infrastructure, so it's a little different. So what I'm finding out is I'm still getting a lot of recruiters contacting me about my old what I did before.
Of course they are.
And that's good, but I don't want to jump back into that frying pan again. That's why I want to downplay it a little bit and work at a team level as opposed to managing these national projects and things like that. So I guess that's what I was looking to find out. You know, I like you said, I went to a lot of job sites and everything, and everyone tells you that. And well, the big thing to say is network. Try to find, network, reach out to people. That most of the jobs are found through other people if you're not in the field. So I just wanted to get some, hear something. And this is my first attempt at networking to find out if there is a how people handle career change, especially at this late in time period in my life.
It is an excellent question, and one that we do address periodically here. Actually, I'm going to, Vern, do you want to answer this first, and then I'll jump in?
Yeah. This is one of the most difficult things for anybody. And you've heard people say, oh, anybody can change careers at any time, but you've already run into the bias.
Right.
Yes.
You don't have experience here.
Right.
I mean, and we have all these other candidates that have experience in this industry, in this field. And
Or you're downshifting, and with which case,
Yeah.
thinking, oh, you're
Yeah,
overqualified.
or you're overqualified.
Yeah.
The biases that exist for the job seeker in that make it a very, very difficult situation. So one of the things that you should be doing when you talked about networking and finding jobs, that's true, but you can also use your network to help you best position yourself to change your career. Reaching out to your network, and again, getting feedback from them. What are your key skills? What, you know, again, for people that know you really well, like if Shira and I were having a conversation, I want to change my career, Shira could say, Vern, you do this well. And then they might give you a suggestion. This is a career where your skills and experience may really line up really well. So getting that information is at least helpful to give you some direction, as opposed to starting at the, here's a funnel and there's all these other jobs out there. You can at least start to narrow it down to some degree.
And I have kind of narrowed it down. It's just that I've narrowed it down to, I feel I know what I'm good at. My best part of my past job was working with the teams and coaching them. Yes, it was a technology area. I enjoyed technology, but that wasn't the reason I was there. I was there. I primarily enjoyed working with the teams and getting things accomplished. And that's the role I'm looking for now. And that's in Agile. That's why I kind of lean towards that, because that's what their role is: taking small 2-week sessions, getting a job done, getting a project done, or a task done, and then moving on to the next one. And it's not really a manager role, it's a coaching role. And that's what I was looking at. And I guess I just have to figure out how to express that correctly, I guess, even in the resume and the cover letter, and as well as in the interviews. Right now, I'm just getting, well, we've decided to go in a different direction. That's the letters I'm getting now. I'm not even getting to the interview table.
The safe kind of.
Yeah. And I'm not one that wants to say, oh, this is automatically ageism. I don't want to say that. I try to think that there's something I can do to change this. So that's.
Keith, it's not a bad idea to actually follow up with the recruiters who are reaching out to you for those other roles and say, look, let me tell you what I am interested in. Because you never know. Maybe that job could be modified. Maybe your superpowers are actually more important than the other things in that role. Don't assume because there's a certain title and a certain scope that it's not right for you. Things change. And sometimes jobs are molded around certain candidates. Have the conversation. If you're otherwise qualified for the role, but for some reason you don't want this piece, you just want that piece, talk to them. Talk to them. Seriously, just have a conversation.
You can imagine, as after being retired, I don't want another 60-hour work week. And
that I think is if work-life balance is really kind of the kicker for you, because I will tell you that even in a lower level role, you could still be working 60, 80 hours a week. Right? Seriously, you don't have to just have a high level title for that to happen. Anybody can have that happen. So really, I think it comes more down to what are the expectations. And by the way, boundary setting. Because Keith, no one's literally asking anybody. I mean, think about this realistically, right? No employer can realistically ask a candidate and say to somebody, we expect you to work 60 days.
Oh, they never say that.
Isn't that silly for me to even say that out loud, right?
Really? Well, they never say that.
Of course they never say that. But the reality is that if you're a hard worker, if you're results driven, your tendency is going to be to work
whatever it takes.
And that means you need to set better boundaries. Okay. That's on you, not on them. You can always deflect. You can always say, look, there's always more work to be done. We only have so many hours in a day. At some point you got to go to sleep. Okay.
Yes.
So really it may not be about that. It might be your perception of the role and what you think, because I think you're might be conflating oh, this type of role means 60, 80 hours. Maybe it
Well, I
has
look at the list
role.
of tasks that they have in the job
But
description.
but
That's what
guess
I'm looking
what?
at.
Guess what? Every job has got a million tasks.
Yeah.
Every job does. Every job does. I
Yeah.
think for you, Keith, it's more a matter of putting your boundaries so that you can manage your time so that you're not working 60 to 80 hours a week. It may have nothing to do with the level of the role. It may have everything to do with how you structure your time.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Project
the
manage
answer.
yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Keith, let me make a suggestion and sure, tell me if I'm going down the right path here, if you think. I mean, Agile is a big thing today, right? I mean, lots of people use Agile. Is there any way that you could, I don't know if these types of jobs exist, but almost on a, working with a consulting firm and taking on a project here and there part-time where you're managing an Agile team for a month period or 3-month period contract, that type of thing. There's lots of contract type positions out there. There's a whole gig economy. There's all of that area. Shira, does that make some sense to you?
Yeah. I think from a networking perspective, you're saying?
Well, from a networking perspective, and maybe in terms of, not 60, if he wants to set boundaries and not work 60 to 80 hours.
Sure.
Contract work.
Take on,
Absolutely. It's a wonderful thing to do when you're thinking about career transition at that stage of life. The contract side of things is a beautiful thing. And in fact, you may even want to go to PMI, right? And network with those folks, right? To kind of see, because a lot of contract jobs in the project management world, people outsource that kind of thing. I would it's a good point, Vern. I would network with your colleagues and just because then you've got a flexible schedule.
Yes.
It's a one-off project and you're not beholden to the pressure, right? And having to set those kind of boundaries. You can just sort of take piecemeal work.
Yeah. It's a little bit like it when you first started out, you've got to get experience, but you got to have experience to get experience.
Yeah.
Right.
That's 22.
I mean,
Right. Oh, so you're also saying that your Agile skills are not as strong as they could be?
I'm not saying they are. I just haven't had a chance. Well, I didn't work in an Agile environment when I was working before. I worked in a project management environment. So I managed projects. I wasn't in software development, which is the primary users of Agile or software developers.
Yeah.
But the role I'm looking for, there's actually a role. It's a Scrum Master. It's called, they are coaching. They are the people of the team.
Yeah.
They're not the technical people. I would say, basically coach them into, they don't even push them. They're not their direct supervisors. They just manage the team to get the project accomplished, the task accomplished.
Right. So you're looking to become a Scrum Master?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
and like I said, when I got the certs, I got all the things I needed through one of the organizations and stuff after I retired. So I did that, and I've been trying to keep the skills up to date. But you need experience to get the roles.
Well, again, to Vern's point, if you can pick up some gig work, you can build your resume.
Yeah.
That's right. And you'll start to get some of that experience. You'll build your network.
Ask your colleagues for Scrum Master
Appreciate it.
gigs. Yeah. Sure. So
thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to offer too, I put on my resume that I was a YouTuber and that I do a lot of teaching. And so they were initially interested in me to be a financial analyst, but they saw on my resume that I did YouTube videos. They started to court me to become a trainer. And so that was what I ended up getting that job as a trainer with no quote unquote experience besides the YouTube videos that I put on my resume. So it is possible to jump over into something new. So I just wanted to offer that experience for a little hope there.
Thanks.
All right. Other questions as we wrap up?
Any mindset tips going into the interview?
Great. Fern, do you want to tackle that one?
Well, again, believe in yourself, believe in your skills, and again, try to remember to just ask questions that will make you, that will help your mindset. That will help, as you're asking questions and they're answering questions, that hopefully will put you a little bit more at ease and more comfortable as you go through the interview and give you a better chance to take some time to think about your answers, connect the dots.
Another mindset tip is see yourself as somebody who is about to have an opportunity to help somebody. Because this is not about you, right? It's about helping them. So if you go into that with sort of that, that helper mindset, that, wow, this is exciting, right? I get to contribute my skills to somebody. Let me figure out what's going on. Let me figure out what their needs are. What can I do? How can I support them? That takes off the pressure from you of like, oh, I got to get a paycheck. It's really about service, right? So see this as an adventure. See this as like you're a journalist, you're going to interview them. They're interviewing you, right? But you're going to interview them back and say like, what are your needs and what's going on? And how can I contribute my skills to you? And what are some of the exciting initiatives that you've got going on? And what can I do for you? That's your mindset.
How can I add value to your company?
Exactly.
How can I make a contribution to make the organization stronger, to meet its customer, to improve its customer service, to whatever some of the key outcomes are for the organization.
That's right. What can I do for you? And by the way, body language wise, smile.
Yes.
Okay. You got a great smile, Eric. Show it off. Because when you do, people bond with you, right? They see that you're likable. They see that you're somebody who's friendly, somebody who's going to be warm and who's going to, be part of their team. That's what people seriously, I mean, it matters. It really, really matters when you smile and when your eyes light up and when you can show enthusiasm in your interview, especially in Zoom, right? Because all they see is a little box and they see your face. So your face is the only thing that can communicate how you're feeling. Okay. So you want to be bright eyed and bushy tailed. Okay.
Yeah, the worst thing is, and I've interviewed a lot of people, is somebody who just answers the questions.
Right, robotically. You don't want that.
Yeah, like a robot.
No.
It's not.
Show them who you are.
Yeah, I sit there as the interviewer saying, this is a waste of time. I keep asking questions and I keep getting these, these short robotic answers.
I interviewed somebody recently and he was incredibly introverted. So much so, like he was just flat, like just really had like no affect at all. And I'm listening, talking and probing and probing and probing. And finally, he started talking about, basically how much he cares for his team and, like he really is a coach and a mentor. And suddenly his humanity started to come out like, oh, he's more than just knowledge. He's like a person. And he had empathy and he had humility. I'm like, wow, that's really okay. So it really, it lifted up his candidacy in my mind because I could see him as human and not just as a knowledge person. So try to let your personality come out, Eric. Really try to warm it up. If there's anything you can do to get them to talk about themselves or anything that's like a little bit of a personal touch can be really helpful to warm things up. You can ask them why they enjoy working at the company. You can say, tell me more about your role, Miss Recruiter or hiring manager. Tell me more about what you do and what brought you here to the company. I noticed you've been here for 7 years. Why do you enjoy it here? What are some of the things that you most enjoy about the work that you do? Just get them talking about themselves.
Knock them dead, Eric.
Knock them alive. All right. So we'll go ahead and wrap up here. So whoever would like to stay on for the short prayer call, happy to have you. Otherwise, we will look forward to seeing everyone else next week.